Hey everybody, it's Gina here from Gina Makes It. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I am showing you how I've been making these fabric covered journals. I started last summer, and for each season since, I've made a fabric covered journal, and I really love the way that they turn out. The one on the left, the blue floral, the light blue floral with the pink enclosure, is my spring journal, this one right here, and I just made this over the weekend and I love it. I did vary the assembly a little bit just because I'm trying different things, but for the most part it is identical to how I'm creating the fabric covered journal in this video. The spines are a little different, although they have the same sort of technique where I'm putting ribbon or something on them to separate it and make it look much like a book spine. So the one on the right is my current winter journal that I just have a few more pages left. The one on the left was my autumn journal that I made from a vintage girl's dress, and this one was my summer journal, the one that I started with. So to get started on the construction of this fabric journal, all you really need is a cardboard box. For the bigger ones that I've used for winter, spring, and summer, I used a big cereal box, like one of those that you get from Costco on the larger side. But for purposes of this video, I'm going to use this Larabar box, which is a little bit smaller, but you can see I have the dimensions here. So the box measures 12 by 9, and I mean the main part of the box. So I'm going to cut off all of those flappy edges in a second, and I actually use the side of the box as the spine, and that's really why I like using cereal boxes or snack bar boxes, because you have a built-in spine. The second thing that you need is a piece of fabric, and then the third and final piece for the cover is just a piece of quilt batting. So the quilt batting is the same size as the box. The fabric is a little bit larger, and then you need some glue, and then I use these little clips, these fabric clips, and I use a pair of scissors, and that is basically going to be it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is cut out my fabric and my quilt batting. I'm going to measure the size of my box. Like I mentioned, this one is 12 by 9. I'm going to make the quilt batting the same size, 12 by 9, because I don't really want any hanging over, because it makes pulling that fabric over onto the other side and gluing it just too bulky and too tricky. And then I'm going to cut my fabric piece out, and I'm just going to add a couple inches to both the width and the height. So you can see my box and my quilt batting are the same size, 12 by 9, and my fabric is a little bit bigger at 14 by 11. So once I have those pieces cut out, and I like to iron my fabric too, just to get it nice and flat, I'm going to actually trim the box if I haven't done so already. And I'm just cutting off all of those little flaps that are hanging off the edge and aren't the front, the back, or the spine. Once that's complete, I am going to take my newly cut box, and I am going to just kind of round what will be the spine. I'm just going to take both of my hands and kind of curl it, and this creates a natural curve in the spine. If you don't want your spine curved, then don't do this. But I always really like a curved spine on my journals. I just think that it looks nicer. It doesn't have those hard edges of that rectangle, and it really works. If you can believe it, it becomes quite rounded and it looks like a natural spine. You can see as it's standing up here that it really does get rounded by just doing a little bit of hand forming. So the next step is to glue the quilt batting onto the front of the box. So you can see that my quilt batting maybe is a little bit smaller than my box, and that's fine because I can stretch it to the edge. As long as it doesn't go over the edge, we're in good shape. But if it's close to the edge, the nature of the batting is that you can kind of stretch it as you're gluing it down. So I'm just going to take my fabric tack glue, add some glue to the front cover, and start gluing my batting down. I'm going to do this section by section just because it's easier to get a nice even adhesion of the quilt batting to the cover. So the quilt batting is porous, meaning some of the glue is coming through. So I'm just patting it lightly to make sure that it gets covered over the entire front cover. Now I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to focus right on the spine. I'm just going to add some glue around the perimeter, and then I'm going to add a little bit of glue down the middle, and I'm going to take my batting, fold it over, and gently press down while I'm kind of stretching the batting just a little bit to make sure that the cover is completely covered with the quilt batting. And now I'm just going to turn my box and I'm going to do the exact same thing for what will be the back cover. I'm going to add my glue, I'm going to stretch my quilt batting, and I'm going to give it a little pat down. As I am gluing the final piece down, I am going to lift up the box and I'm going to fold it as if it was a book, just to make sure that none of the edges are stretching too far. And I want that natural fold on the spine to kind of start to naturally fold on the quilt batting itself. So the final step using glue is just to add your fabric cover. Now I'm just trying to see which side I like better, and I like this side better, so I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to add glue to the front cover of the quilt batting now, and now my glue is going to get a little sticky and kind of get a little gooey just because it's picking up some of those fibers from the quilt batting, but I'm just going to add a little bit of glue because I am going to sew around the perimeter of this as well. So it's really the sewing that's going to keep it down, but I just want to get it semi put down with a little bit of fabric tack glue. I find that it's easier if I flip the entire box over just so I can see that my cardboard is centered directly on the piece of fabric, because I want about the same amount of fabric on each side, so when I go to fold over after I'm done sewing, it's pretty even as I'm clipping my corners and I'm creating that border along the inside. So now I'm just going to take my glue and I am going to do the same thing on the spine, and I'm going to do the same thing on the front cover. And you can see I'm just using a little bit of glue. I'm just dotting it, lightly putting it on there, and then I'm going to fold over my piece of fabric and I'm going to lightly tap it down with the palm of my hand. Once I get it smoothed out, I am going to fold it just like I did with the quilt batting, just to make sure that we have no stretching and nothing weird is happening when we fold it. And then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to allow it to dry, just so when I put it through my sewing machine, there's no glue that's going to get stuck on my needle or inside of my sewing machine. So I'm using this very old spool of thread, and the reason I'm using it is because it's a thicker thread, and that's kind of what I want along the perimeter of my fabric covered journal. And so I'm going to thread my machine with that, and I'm also going to add some stitching along the spine. So I'm going to go all the way around here, and then I'm also, as a second step, I'm going to go along I'm going to call it the north and south of the spine. But first I'm going to take it to my machine and I'm going to do the perimeter, and then I'm going to come back and draw some lines for the spine. So there is the perimeter. You can see it's a nice thick piece of thread, and so you can really see it. I elongated my stitch too, just so it wasn't such a short stitch. I kind of like a longer stitch, like a top stitch. And now, because there'd be no way for me to see where the actual spine would lay, I'm just taking a ruler and I'm softly putting a line on the spine where I want to sew, and I'm making sure to fold it to make sure it's lined up and it's even, and I even go back a couple times and I straighten the line out just so I know that I'm getting it exactly where I want to get it. Once I have that spine sewn, I don't even really need to erase the pencil marks because you can barely even see them, but if you wanted to, you could take a eraser and go over it to erase those lines, or you could even use one of those disappearing ink sewing pens or one of those white pencils that tend to rub off after you're done sewing, or even some tailor chalk if you have some of that in your stash. So now I'm just going to go around and trim all of the threads, and from this point it's pretty much the same way that you would put together a regular journal cover that was made of paper. So it's really the same process from this point out. You're going to miter your corners and then you're going to glue over your edges. There is one little thing that I did before I actually started the process of gluing my fabric edges over, and that is just kind of taking off this blunt corner of the cardboard. With paper and with fabric, sometimes if your corner is a little too sharp, then it might poke through the paper or the fabric, and I just didn't want this to happen on this because it's happened to me before in the past. So it's just something that takes a few extra seconds to do, and it really helps allow the fabric not to rip once you start kind of pulling it and tugging it and gluing it over. I'm pretty happy with the way the corners look now. So now I'm just kind of seeing how the fabric's going to look pulled over, if I have enough, if I need to trim it before I start to miter my corners, but I don't. So I just start to cut on an angle close to the corner on each side, just to allow a nice, clean and crisp fold at each of the corners. So I know there's a lot of tutorials on how to do this. I always just kind of wing it. I've actually seen people create like jigs for this where there's templates and stuff that they use. They have it down to a science. I don't. I just kind of cut and fold and see what happens. That's the way that I do this, and it always tends to work out. So no worries if you're new to this. It's a fairly simple process. I do like to add these clips to each of the glued sides just because I feel like it allows it to dry a little bit quicker, and I know that I definitely have a very close adhesion between the fabric and the cardboard. In some instances I feel like the corners are a little too sharp still, so I go through and I clip them some more as I'm working on the corner. I do like to put a clip right on that corner to ensure a nice sticking from the fabric onto that cardboard. Once I get done doing this, I'm actually going to go through and take a pin and kind of finagle some of those unruly corners and get the fabric to lay down a little bit neater on top of the cardboard. You could see I'm really kind of bending my head and trying to see because I just want this to be as neat as possible. So I really have to kind of get in there and take a look and see what's going on as I'm gluing it down. But once I get all of these clips on, I do fold it like I was doing when I was first gluing on the quilt batting and the fabric, just to make sure that there's nothing stretching, nothing looking weird, and that it's all kind of lined up. So once it's dried, the cover is pretty much done. I pulled out some laces that I thought would look really nice with this cover, and I don't actually end up adding any laces to it because I'm thinking I might use this for summer. It's such a summery print. It's like this little calico print, but I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to use it for. So I'd hate to add some lace to it when I maybe wouldn't want the lace added to it, but I'm just checking everything out. I'm cutting some of these little frayed edges off. I will maybe add a little bit of fray check if I still have some frayed edges to it. That helps things kind of stop fraying. But this is where I am actually taking some really sharp fabric scissors and I'm cutting anything that's hanging off, and I'm actually going to add a little bit of glue, and I'm going to take a pin and I'm going to kind of push down some of the corners that aren't cooperating as well as I would like them to. And then once I get it to a point where I like it, I'm going to add a clip into that corner and I'm going to let it sit until it dries. And then hopefully when I take it off, it's nice and flat and everything is where I want it to be. So now I'm just trying out some of this vintage lace that I have in my stash just to see if I wanted to put some around the bottom or the sides of the cover. Now would be the time for me to do it before I put my layer on my inside cover. So I'm just holding it up to see, and I do love that. I loved it as I was sitting there. I just think it is just so beautiful. The color is sort of like an ecru, and it just matches the fabric so well, and it's so dainty and feminine, and it's really really everything that I want in a fabric cover, except I'm not sure what I'm actually going to use this cover for. So I didn't want to commit to a lace before I knew what I was going to use it for. I do have some other flat lace that I'm going to try on the spine, because I do like to add lace on the spine like that. And again, I really love the way that that looks. This is just some vintage lace that looks beautiful. I used this in my journal with me on Patreon just a few days ago. I use this lace a lot. It's one of my favorite laces to use. But again, not doing it at this point because I'm not sure where I'm going to end up with this journal. Thank you so much for joining me on this video, and I do hope that you try to make your own fabric cover journal if this is the type of journal that you're looking for, something that's a little bit more simple, a little bit more vintage looking, something that's very easy and kind of neat looking actually too, if that's kind of what you're going for. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.